Okay guys, make sure to like, comment, and subscribe. Now, fasten your seatbelts. Here we go. Okay guys, I'm back and it's Sunday, March 15th, and it is 9:29 p.m. Eastern Time. So let's get started. I'm so glad to be back with you guys. I really am. I didn't want to miss yesterday recording, but the situation was my parents are elderly. Of course, my mom, is still dealing with a broken hip. She's mending well, but my stepfather is got diminished lung capacity and his lungs are very, very bad. So I don't want them out at all. So yesterday I spent getting them stocked up on everything and making sure that I had everything. It's not that I'm so afraid of the virus, because I'm not. I plan on staying in mainly. But what I am afraid of is a panic and the fact that there are now huge shortages in our community here. And this is a pretty rural community. And already there's no toilet paper for towns and towns around, of course, but I don't understand why people haven't caught on to the fact that they could be using toilet paper or just cut up paper towel into small squares. I don't understand what this huge toilet paper issue is, but what I do know is that you can't eat toilet paper, and I would much rather have food. It's gross, but you can always use a washcloth and wash it off afterwards if you have to. But if you don't have food, you don't have food. So, anyway, so that's what I was doing yesterday, and I feel so much more relieved knowing that we're all squared away here. So anyway, I'm probably going to be home a lot lately. They've shut down the churches here. I wasn't able to go to church today, and they're shutting everything down. They've shut down all the dentist's office, and who knows what they're going to shut down next. But I suspect that any day now the mall will shut down, and I think they've shut down the theaters and so forth. So I'm going to be in, and that leaves me more time to record and to dig up stuff that's interesting. So I guess it's good news for you guys, but I don't mind, as long as it can't last forever. So we'll get through it. We'll all get through this. We will. We're tough people. So anyway, let's get right into today's video, and I do want to thank the following 3 people that donated via Ko-fi, and I do appreciate it because I depend on that. I'm not monetized in any way. There's no advertising on this site, so I do depend on that and Patreon and so forth. So thank you guys so much, because you have been more than generous and more than kind to me. I really do think I have the best listeners and certainly the most courteous listeners. So anyway, what we're going to be looking at tonight, and I've probably got enough for 2 videos here. Unfortunately, there's not a lot of news like political news, because everything has kind of shut down and all the attention is focusing on the coronavirus. Now, whether or not you think that it's a hoax or it's being overblown, that is not the issue. That's fine. If you want to believe that, that's great. I would tend to agree that it's being slightly overblown, and but on the other hand, you only have to look to the countries where it's been to see the devastation it's caused. So my concern basically, and your concern, should be more about the quarantines, about them shutting down internal air traffic, like from flying from coast to coast and so forth. I think non-essential travel will be probably curtailed very, very soon. And I really foresee people not being able to even cross state lines unless there's a very good reason for you to do so. So that's what you should be concerned about, not so much the virus itself, but the panic that ensues because of it. And the fact that, they're going to be taking over, the government's going to be taking over distribution. And I don't know if that makes me feel any better or not. What about you guys? So really stop in the comments saying, oh, you're fear-mongering or this or that. It's not that. I've been saying this from the start. I don't want anybody to be fearful and at home, like worried about everything. No, but I do want people to be prepared, because whether we like it or not, whether we agree with it or not, the government's going to do what the government's going to do. And quarantines and so forth will be a part of our life for probably the next few months at least. So please prepare and pay attention to what is happening around you. And that is why I keep doing these videos about the virus, because it's not so much the virus, although it is the virus, but it's everything surrounding it. We need to be prepared. We need to be, you need to have a plan in place. What are you going to do if? What are you going to do if this? And that is just wise regardless, because there's always natural disasters, hurricanes, tornadoes. There's always fires. You have flooding, and it's good to have a plan in place of, okay, I need to get a little bag together with my medication in it and so forth. And I need to have pet food in advance, and I need to have whatever. Like, you need to have a plan. So let's get into this. And we are going to be talking about the virus, but we're not going to be focusing solely on that. But the bigger story around it. And that really is what the news is. I think people are focusing too much on the virus and not on some of the other things surrounding it. So we're going to get into that tonight, and it may take me 2 videos. I know that most of you won't care if I do 2 videos tonight. You'll be happy about that. And we'll just, I'll try tomorrow to come up with, I'm going to try and come up with another topic that is a little bit, I don't know, maybe something like the Somerset Belanoff stuff, or, the iPet goat, something like that, because I do want to, throw in some videos that are off topic of this so that we can break it up some. And also, I'll be covering any political news that there is. All right, well, let's get into this. And I think that you guys are going to find this very interesting. If you haven't seen this already, this is very, very important. Let's look at this. It says careers at the CDC, public health advisor, quarantine program. Okay, this was posted November 15th, 2019. November 15th, 2019. And look, they're wanting public health advisors for the quarantine program in all the following places: Dallas, Texas; El Paso, Texas; Houston, Texas; Seattle, Washington; Anchorage, Alaska; Los Angeles, California; San Diego, California; San Francisco, California; Miami, Florida; Atlanta, Georgia; Honolulu, Hawaii; Chicago, Illinois; Boston, Massachusetts; Detroit, Michigan; Minneapolis, Minnesota; Newark, New Jersey; New York, Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, and San Juan. And this is the Department of Health and Human Services, and the agency is the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention. The salary range is $51,440 to $93,077 per year. That's per annum. And the open period is from November 15th to May 15th of 2020. So I guess if you're wanting a career at the CDC, they're hiring. Not sure if they've filled all those positions, but isn't that interesting that they were asking for these positions to be filled in November? Now, what did they know? Because we didn't know anything at that point. So what did they know? And why didn't they let us know? If they knew this was coming, why were we not informed? That's what I want to know. Why? Is there a good reason? No, there's no good reason. Oh, I didn't want to cause panic. Oh, okay, so you just cause more deaths. It's awful, because obviously they knew something. They knew something. Says the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention, CDC, is the agency Americans trust with their lives. Not this. Not this one. Okay, I'm Canadian by birth, but I am a legal resident of the U.S., even though I'm not legally residing there right now because, my elderly parents, but I'm coming back. Anyway, as a global leader in public health, CDC is the nation's premier health promotion, prevention, and preparedness agency. Whether we are protecting the American people from public health threats, researching emerging diseases, or mobilizing public health programs with our domestic and international partners, we rely on employees to make a real difference in the health and well-being of people here and around the world. This position is located in the Department of Health and Human Services, Centers for Disease Control and Prevention, National Center for Emerging and Zoonotic Infectious Diseases. Interesting. Division of Global Migration and Quarantine and Border Health Services branch within various locations. Salary may be adjusted to include a cost of living allowance or of 10.64% for Honolulu, Hawaii. So this is very interesting if you ask me. Now, maybe if we ask them, they'd say, well, yeah, but it's not really for that. It's more for, well, I don't know. It's not border stuff. If it's in New Jersey, San Juan, New York. So what is this all about? I'd like to know, and I'd like answers. I really would like answers. And I bet you do too. That's what I am guessing anyway. All right, let's look at this now. And this is from the Washington Times. Dr. Anthony Fauci urges national shutdown as coronavirus spreads. Now, this is why I've been telling you guys to prepare. This sort of thing, national shutdown. What do you think that means? Well, it doesn't sound real good, does it? I know the way it sounds. Dr. Anthony Fauci, director of the National Institute of Allergy and Infectious Diseases, urged Americans to shut down more aggressively as the coronavirus spreads. On MSNBC's Meet the Press, Mr. Fauci endorsed a 14-day national shutdown to help slow down the virus. He explained that he had brought it up with the administration, which is generally open to his ideas. I think Americans should be prepared that they are going to have to hunker down significantly more than we as a country are doing, he said. And I would agree with that because I think that the measures that we're taking are far too conservative. I really think that they should be testing people. There is word about them possibly beginning to test people before they go into a grocery store. I'm okay with that. I really am, because I think that we should be safe. But yeah. On ABC's This Week, the doctor explained that lockdowns helped China and South Korea fight the rapid spread of the disease in their countries. China, he said, had just reached its peak and is starting to see number of cases drop, whereas South Korea has flatlined. However, he warned that while it's hard to predict exactly how long the virus will be a threat, the U.S. should prepare for this to last for several weeks or a few months. And that is what I'm thinking. Excuse me. I'm thinking that we're probably going to be dealing with this for at least another 2 months. It could be 6 months. It could be another year. We don't know. We don't know what's going to happen. I don't think it's going to be a year, but I don't think anybody knows. Now, what we should be doing is absolutely much, much different. Not business as usual, just chill down, he said on ABC. Across the nation, public schools and events are being shut down as states and local officials try to contain the virus. And I don't think at this point anything we're going to do is going to contain it, but it will slow it down. And I think that that should be the main concern right now, is slowing it down. Excuse me. Sorry. Now, why should we be concerned with slowing it down? Well, because the longer we can slow the progression down, the more chance there is that something will be developed to help quell it, possibly a vaccine, although at this point I don't think I would trust any vaccine that they came up with. But anyway, time will tell what will happen with all this. So let's go back now. And let's look at this. Now, this should tell us not to believe all the rhetoric that we're hearing from the mainstream media, because it says not just seniors. French doctors report 50% of ICU patients under 60 years old. Netherlands under 50. So 50% of the ICU patients are under 60 years old. And in the Netherlands, 50% of the ICU patients are under 50. So all these people saying, oh, it's just gonna, get the old people. You don't have to worry if you're young and healthy. Really? Well, that's not what they're saying. That's not what the French are saying. It's not what they're saying in the Netherlands. So should we trust their experience, since they've had a lot more experience at this point with the virus than we have? I think we should maybe listen to them, instead of saying, oh, it's just the old people and, people that are immune compromised and so forth. No, it isn't. No, it isn't. Anyway, let's come down here. It's beginning to look like someone's lying, as both French and Dutch medical professionals are reporting that half of corona ICU patients are under the age of 60 and 50 years old, respectively. More than 50% of the 300 COVID-19 cases in critical condition in France are under 60, tweeted The Atlantic's Rachel Donadio on Saturday. So, this kind of changes things. And it says, meanwhile, in the Netherlands, over half are reportedly under 50 years old. Today, there are between 40 and 50 corona patients in critical condition on Dutch intensive care. More than half of those patients are under 50 years old. There are also young people. That, says chairman of the Dutch Association for Intensive Care, Diederik Gomers, in an interview with this site. And this from Steve Luckner. He is saying over half of the coronavirus patients in intensive care in the Netherlands are under 50 years old. Let me see here. What else do we have? On Saturday, AD documented the case of a 16-year-old boy with no disclosed underlying conditions who wound up in the ICU after complaining of nausea and headaches. He is currently on ventilation in a medically induced coma. 16 years old. And as long as he can't breathe properly himself, they keep him artificially asleep, said his 24-year-old brother, Babor. The reports suggest that COVID-19 is more than just a boomer remover, a phrase made popular by younger generations who think they're invincible. Considering that U.S. hospitals are projected to be completely full come mid-May, the implications of the CV impacting more than just the elderly are significant. The new reports of younger ICU patients echo unconfirmed accounts from Italian doctors. So there you go. Don't trust what you're hearing here. I would be more inclined to trust what's coming out of Italy and France and these nations that are actually dealing with the full onslaught of it. We have not had that yet, and we haven't even bumped up our testing really significantly yet. So there could be lots of cases that are just going undetected because they're not being tested for. And so many people in hospitals, and if you're in the healthcare industry, maybe you can corroborate this. They're saying that the flu this year is the worst ever. It's the worst ever, and there's so many more flu deaths. Well, are some of these deaths not attributed to the flu? Because if these people are not being autopsied afterwards, they wouldn't know whether they had the virus or not. Are these people being tested? Are these people that die of the flu? They should be tested, posthumously, because you would think that probably there's a good possibility that some of these actually died of CV. All right, let's go back. And here we go. Here's this. Now, this is what worries me. This right here. Breaking. federal government to control and oversee grocery distribution with government-private sector partnerships. Walmart, Costco, Target, Kroger, top grocery chains to be deemed critical infrastructure. National Guard to protect key distribution points. Well, that's probably good that the National Guard is protecting the key distribution points. Yes, but I don't know about the government taking over this. Well, it says that they're partnering with these people, but I don't know. Something about this makes me very, very nervous. Now, yes, I think Donald Trump's doing a wonderful job, and so far, I think that he has been trustworthy. So part of me wants to just say, you know, trust him, trust that he's doing the right thing, but another part of me says, okay, every time I just blindly trust, I get burned. And, you know, I'm saying that, you know, I grew up being taught to trust the government. Why would the government hurt us? And I think, you know, I started to wake up prior to 9/11. And I remember when I saw that, I was actually babysitting my pastor's kids who was away. He and his wife were away. And when this happened, and I remember even then thinking, something's not right about this, because I watched the coverage that whole day and I kept thinking there's something not right about this. And when I looked into it and then I discovered that, you know, the truth of what had happened, I began changing my feeling towards that. No, we've been lied to. We've been lied to over and over and over again. And there's a good possibility that we're being lied to now, but I don't know. And I don't want to blame Trump for anything that is not his fault. I certainly don't. And I think that he has done a fantastic job. But I hope, I pray really, that he is trustworthy. Now, don't be putting stuff down here like, trust the plan. You can't throw your brains away. You really can't. And nobody would expect you to. Because I think, honestly, Donald Trump would be the last person to say, oh, yeah, just throw your brains away and blindly trust. No, he wouldn't. And, you know, God created us with a mind, a wonderful working mind, and he expects us to use it. So, yeah, take in everything, but process it critically. Okay, breaking news alert. The U.S. federal government is in the planning stage of implementing a plan to protect and control grocery distribution across the United States via public-private partnership with top grocery chains such as Walmart, Kroger, H-E-B. Is that how that's pronounced? H-E-B, or is it Heb? I don't know. I've never heard of these grocery stores except from my friend Heather H. from Houston. Anyway, Target, Costco, etc., high-level sources now tell Natural News the effort is being made to ensure the smooth delivery of food supplies to the public as a coronavirus lockdown is about to commence on a regional basis, and food suppliers are necessary to prevent social unrest, lawlessness, and looting. So what's going to happen to the smaller grocery chains? I'm not understanding what this is actually saying. I do understand it, but what does that mean for a little mom and pop grocery store on the corner? Are they going to have goods being distributed there that they can resell to the community? Because, you know, if you only have one or two distribution, and it's not going to go well. It's really not. So I don't know. I don't know what they're saying. And I don't know how this is going to play out. But we need to be paying attention to it. The effort is being made to ensure the smooth delivery of food supplies to the public as a coronavirus lockdown is about to commence on a regional basis, and food supplies are necessary to prevent social unrest, lawlessness, and looting. Natural News has learned details of the plan, which we are told is in the final stages of being completed, with some measure of rollout to begin as early as just a few days from now in at least one region of the country. We were also told that we got the attention of the administration when I appeared on the Alex Jones show 2 weeks ago and delivered prediction numbers that closely match the classified numbers the CDC and HHS already has, none of which has been released to the public. This caused alarm in certain circles, we are told, because CDC thought they had a leak to Natural News, which apparently would be the end of the world at the CDC. They later concluded that we had reached the same conclusion based on mathematical models, not any leak. I can confirm that nobody from the CDC has leaked anything to us. The reason we have arrived at the same numbers is because I can do math, and as a scientist, I understand the principles of epidemiology and exponential spread. My pandemic projection spreadsheet has accurately predicted all the recent deaths with near perfect accuracy, by the way, and I released it publicly on March 9th, revealing all the math behind the calculations. On the good news side, we are told that Trump is working day and night to coordinate a response that keeps the American people fully supplied with food, medicine, water, and security. And with that plan will be implemented with absolute zero advanced warning to the public. We are told that VP Mike Pence is secretly working with pharmaceutical companies to rapidly accelerate critical drug manufacturing in the United States of America, with special efforts underway to resurrect certain factories in Puerto Rico that were wiped out by the hurricane last year. The long-term plan, we are told, is to designate the pharmaceutical supply lines as strategic infrastructure, much like the strategic oil reserves, and to maintain U.S. manufacturing of certain medications from this day forward. The days of outsourcing everything to China, in other words, are over. Thank God. Globalism is finally starting to implode. Let's hope Trump uses this opportunity to promote the importance of nationalism and redundant supply lines filled with made in America goods and materials. Here are the details of the food grocery that have been shared with us. Excuse me that I keep touching my nose, but it's like I've got this little drip happening, and I don't have any Kleenex around, but I don't know, a little post-nasal drip, I guess. Okay, here are the details of the food and grocery that have been shared with us. The scope of this plan isn't yet clear, as at times we are told it would be regional, but might expand from there. No specific city was mentioned, but we can imagine it will start with New York City and Seattle and follow the cities with the worst outbreaks. The plan will not nationalize grocery chains. Okay, that's good. As the president prefers public-private partnerships that leverage the existing distribution infrastructure of private sector, which operates more efficiently than the government, the president prefers to respect and allow the private sector to fulfill its role in society rather than try to take over those operations. Okay, that sets me at ease somewhat. It really does, because to me, that sounds smart. It sounds that he's thought all of this out. Grocery chains will be declared via executive order critical infrastructure. The wording may be slightly different, such as essential infrastructure, so that the executive branch of the federal government grants itself the jurisdiction to oversee food distribution and food security for the nation. This is conjecture on our part, but we believe this same executive order will also designate long-haul trucking a similar critical infrastructure and would likely prioritize trucking transport operations to keep the food, fuel, medicine, and other supplies flowing. Obviously, without nationwide trucking, the grocery stores run out of food in mere hours, as we are now seeing almost everywhere. The plan will involve National Guard troops showing a presence at grocery store parking lots, which will serve as distribution points. They will be given ROE, rules of engagement orders, to actively engage anyone who initiates violence or attempts to steal food. There will be little or no tolerance for threats to food distribution points, grocery stores, or food trucking operations. The National Guard will be ordered to begin protecting food distribution hubs and truck routes on the highways to ensure that food trucks arrive safely at grocery stores across America. The president is reportedly about to meet with trucking union leaders and trucking organizations to finalize the structure of this plan, which may include an escort vehicle to shadow the trucks and ensure security. There is talk just talk, not any decision yet, of not allowing the public to enter the grocery stores and instead setting up a drive-through system in the parking lots where people are allowed to purchase pre-made grocery kits which contain pre-selected bases such as eggs, milk, ground beef, bags of rice, etc., which are offered at a fixed price and fixed quantities with strict limits on the allowable purchase per citizen. Presumably, there would have to be kits assembled for people who have children or infants separate from adult kits. We are told this will not be implemented right away and is only a last-ditch measure if the spread of the virus gets far worse. However, the administration is fully aware that grocery store crowds are right now spreading the virus, especially in New York City. It also means that the government already realizes consumer choice is going to have to be strictly limited in order to achieve high-efficiency grocery distribution to the public. Kiss your gluten-free crackers goodbye if this phase of the plan goes live. So if there is special food that you need, like if you have diabetes or if you are, have celiac disease, you need gluten-free food, make sure that you are stocked up on those items. You will probably be able to get, staples like eggs and milk and cheese and things like that. But specialty foods, I could see those kind of going by the wayside as they concentrate more on the staples and not so much on specialty food. So that would be my advice, is to go out and get those items. I know I try to be gluten-free. I don't always succeed, but I do try. So I got those items in specifically and, enough to last me probably a couple months. So anyway. The SNAP program, food stamps, is going to be expanded under an emergency order to allow those on food assistance to increase their food stockpiles in advance of the coming lockdowns. This also means the banks that handle the SNAP transactions are about to see a huge increase in their transaction loads, which make them prone to outages, as history has shown. Even if consumer choice is allowed to continue on grocery purchases for some time, strict limits will be placed on grocery items at the federal level. And I think we're already seeing that. I am around here. It says, like for cases of water, the limit is 2 and things like that. So they are limiting things that are in demand. So, and I think that's good, because you'll always have somebody going in there and, buying up a truckload of water, and then everybody else is out of luck. And that person will probably sell it back to you at 4 times the cost. Anyway, even if consumer choice is allowed to continue, strict limits, blah, 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 says we are told limits will apply to all basics such as ground beef, bottled water, eggs, rice, milk, canned soups, bread, powdered milk, plus many personal hygiene and baby care items such as diapers, toilet paper, sanitizing supplies, including bleach, hand soap, and even basic pharmacy items such as isopropyl alcohol and hydrogen peroxide. Those things are really, really cheap right now, so go get them. Make sure that you have them in your home, because they're good for a multitude of uses, and they're something that you always need to have. Like, I have a little basic first aid kit of rubbing alcohol, hydrogen peroxide, triple antibiotic ointment, cortisone cream, things that you need all the time. I've got some Tylenol, things like that you may need. So just be sure, because, and again, everybody's panicking about the virus. It's not about the virus as much as what the virus is bringing. And this is not just fear mongering. It's not. And, you can choose. You can say, well, this chick is just fear mongering and I'm going to turn her off because this is ridiculous. Or you can say, you know what? It's not going to hurt me to stock up a little bit. Not going to hurt me to go out and get a first aid kit. It doesn't have to cost an arm and a leg to stock up. I don't have infinite amounts of money, but I was able to get stocked up, and I was able to do it cheaply. If they're out of toilet paper and you need it, buy tissue paper, like tissue, like Kleenex. Make do. If there's a food rice is cheap, spaghetti is cheap. These things, you know, you can fill up on very quickly and very cheaply. Now I got enough beans to last. Oh my gosh, because I love beans. I absolutely love beans. So I've got probably enough beans to feed the neighborhood. Well, not quite, but I love me my beans now. Okay, now timeline. We are told this plan may be activated within days in certain regions. Probably, okay, we read that. The plan, we are told, will not affect most of Middle America where the virus is not yet reaching critical numbers. Watch this short animation to see where the hot spots are, and this is very interesting. So these are the hot spots. There's March 5th, and you can see that it's spreading, and of course, these are the hot spots over here, here, up here. But quickly, we're getting, like Louisiana is getting them, Texas is getting more. But you can see the middle of the country so far is pretty much untouched. Well, not totally, but not as bad. Like up here, there's nothing yet. So what this means is that many of the federal emergency efforts will be focused on West and East Coast. We aren't expecting draconian lockdowns in the near future in any states other than Washington, California, New York, and Virginia, with New Jersey a candidate that's likely to follow. That's all we know so far. The good news is that Trump is planning for what's coming, and he is maintaining supply lines that are necessary to prevent mass starvation and death. Thank God that President Trump is in office right now, seriously, because if he wasn't, I hate to know what would happen. I really do. Anyway, this reminds us to tell you what Dr. Anthony Fauci said earlier today, and remember that Fauci is advising the president on everything right now. He says, it looks like you're overreacting. If it looks like you're overreacting, you're probably doing the right thing. Now, I want to tell you an experience that I had yesterday. I had to go into the drugstore because my parents needed several items from the drugstore, but that's the last place I want to be, because where do sick people go? To the drugstore. So I had a Gap shirt, like sweatshirt, that is Sherpa lined, and it was warmer yesterday, so I just had that on. And when I went in there, I grabbed the hood from it and I wrapped it around my mouth, and I was breathing into that. And a man was absolutely irate with me. And he says, "What, you think I'm infected?" And I thought, my gosh, like, why is he so angry? I'm not doing anything that affects him in any way. And I'm in the aisle with all the cough and cold stuff, and people are coughing and hacking. You know what? Even if there was no such thing as the coronavirus, I would still have that over my mouth. I don't want their colds. But anyway, so I understand. There's people that, like right now in the community, there's some wearing masks, some aren't, but the ones that are getting a lot of flack for it. I think that's ridiculous. But it'd be interesting to see which ones will be alive. So there you go. Now, this is very interesting. And I want to see up here where they mentioned this calculation. Here it is. This is the pandemic projection model that apparently closely mirrors the CDC, except that the CDC is keeping it quiet. So I don't know how to make this bigger. Let me see if it gets into this. New projections show only 1.1 million deaths in the U.S. by July 4th if social distancing achieves 25% suppression. So the projections of this revision 2 spreadsheet typically do not match revision 1. Since we have simplified some of the calculations, this has resulted in typically a lower fatality projection. One piece of good news is this projection is that if you enter an RO value of 2.4 and a social distancing suppression of 25%, there are only 1.1 million deaths in the U.S. by July 4th. So I don't know. I don't know what's going to happen. I don't have any idea what the numbers are going to be, but I'm going to take a closer look at this when I'm not recording and kind of take it apart and see what they're saying. All right, let's go back now. And let's look at this. Okay, the Lancet, global case fatality rate from coronavirus settles at 5.7%, or 57 times higher than the flu. Death rate skyrockets to 20% when hospitals get overrun. And that's what the real fear is that the hospitals will get overrun. And they will. They will. Because then the death rate skyrockets to 20%. And that's pretty steep. So, yeah, the fear isn't so much about the virus itself as to what it will cause socially, societally. The hospitals will be overrun. The doctors and nurses, they'll get sick because they have in every other place. They've gotten sick. And what happens when we don't have enough doctors and nurses? I don't know. Maybe that won't be an issue, but I can assure you that in some places our hospitals will be completely overrun. Maybe not in the middle of the country, so you might get off very easily if you're in the heartland. But one can only tell these things with time, really. A new study in the Lancet entitled Real Estimates of Mortality Following COVID-19 Infection finds the global death rate from the coronavirus is settling in at 5.7, which is 57 times higher than the seasonal flu. The study warns that mortality rate of COVID-19 could be as high as 20% in Wuhan, the epicenter of the outbreak. This is consistent with what we already know about what happens when local hospital beds get overrun and patients no longer have access to critical care. The death rate skyrockets to 10 to 20%. As the following chart shows from the study, the calculated case fatality rate appears to be settling at around 5%, with 5.7% the current best calculation. This means that for 1 million Americans who get infected, we should expect around 50,000 deaths, maybe more. According to our pandemic projection models, there are right now fewer than 1 million Americans infected, but the number is doubling about every 4 days. So it won't take long to get there unless a national lockdown happens first. COVID-19 mortality rate could be as high as 20% when hospitals are overrun. The same study shows a mortality rate of nearly 20% in areas where hospitals get overrun, such as Wuhan, where it all began. The study specifically warns these findings show that the current figures might underestimate the potential threat of COVID-19 in symptomatic patients. The study also warns that the median time from onset to symptoms to intensive care unit (ICU) admission is around 10 days. Since symptoms don't appear for a few days in newly infected people, what this really means is that by the time 100 people need hospitalization, there are probably something like 1,000 additional people who have already been infected but aren't yet requiring hospitalization. Stated another way, if New York City doesn't lock down the entire city before the hospitals start to surge, it's already too late. And the subsequent 3 weeks are going to be absolute hell, with dead and dying patients flooding the system. As we have stated before, the danger in all this is not fear itself, but in not being fearful enough early enough, and thereby becoming complacent until it's too late. Although USA Today is, of course, left-wing propaganda, their analysis of the hospital situation in liberal cities is not some twisted effort to hurt Trump. It's actually an indictment of liberal cities and their total lack of preparedness to handle a pandemic. No state is prepared, says this USA Today analyst, which then goes on to show that, in particular, California, Oregon, and Washington are the worst prepared. U.S. hospitals will run out of beds if coronavirus cases spike, warns the article, and the analysis is correct. Places like Oregon, Washington, New Mexico, and California might need 8 times as many beds, according to the USA Today analysis. Check out the map below and note that the dark blue states have the highest population per hospital beds. So, this is the estimated number of seriously ill patients per available hospital bed for all ages. So there are 8 to 12 Okay, the white is 8 to 12. That there are 8 to 12. There are 8 to 12 seriously. Okay, so in the white areas, there are 8 to 12 patients, ill patients for every hospital bed. So there's one hospital bed per 8 to 12 ill patients. And the light blue, it's 12 to 14, even worse. And the little bit darker blue, medium blue, is 14 to 20 sick patients for every one hospital bed. And the dark blue states are the worst because it's 20 to 24 estimated number of seriously ill patients per available hospital bed. So these are the dark blue. These are the states that are in the worst shape: Connecticut, Maryland, Hawaii, New Mexico, Arizona, Colorado, Utah, California, Oregon, Washington, and Idaho. And then this medium blue, I guess, is all along the East Coast. You see it, and as well as Texas and Oklahoma. And the places that are in the best shape are the Midwest. You've got North Dakota, South Dakota, Nebraska, Kansas, Wyoming, here, West Virginia, and Mississippi. They're all in, fairly good shape. But this is a little alarming. Like, it's not going to take very much to overwhelm the system, and you got to realize that. If you have a lot of sick people, that's why when you have a major mass casualty event, they take them to several hospitals, not just one, because it would overwhelm one hospital. Now, you think of the coronavirus, it's the same thing. You're going to have all these sick people needing hospitalization, and there's only so many beds. So that's what the issue is. Notably, this assessment assumes all hospital beds are empty right now, which of course we know is not the case, which they aren't. According to sources we've cited before, hospital beds across America are roughly 70 to 75% occupied on any given day. That same USA Today article goes on to mention the Johns Hopkins Center for Health Security estimates that 38 million Americans will need medical care for COVID-19, including as many as 9.6 million who will need to be hospitalized, about a third of whom might need ICU level care. In a February presentation to the American Hospital Association, Lawler estimated that as many as 96 million Americans could be infected. So, what does all this mean? Well, it means that the U.S. healthcare system is on track to absolutely crater in the next 8 weeks or so. There's no getting around it. There are probably already enough infections circulating across America to crater the hospital capacities in cities like Seattle, New York City, and San Francisco. Rural America will fare much better, thankfully. The mayor of New York City just announced that literally everyone in the city has likely been exposed. While everyone exposed is not difficult, with everyone exposed, it's not difficult to see that 1/3 of the city could become infected. That means out of a city of 8 million people, it's not out of bounds to estimate that 2.5 million could become infected in New York City. With even just a 5% case fatality rate, that translates into 125,000 dead in New York City alone. But of course, the hospitals would be very quickly overrun, so the actual case fatality rate might double that. Do not take these numbers lightly. Don't blow this off and think it's some hoax or some fear-mongering nonsense. All those who mocked preppers are about to get hit with a rude dose of reality in just a few days or weeks. So, that's a very good article with a lot of good information, and I think it, especially if you are in New York City, I know that you probably have your job there, your family's there. It's not easy to just pick up and go somewhere else. I realize that. So the best thing you can do is keep yourself well. Don't go out, limit your exposure as much as you can, because in the days and weeks ahead, we're going to see this really ramping up. Now, I want to read this to you, but I want to preface it by saying I don't know if any of it is true. None of it. I found this on a forum, and it says from Daniel Robert Dowell. Now, whoever that is, I don't know who that is. But when I read through all this, I thought, man, there really could be something to this. So I wanted to bring it to you guys, but I want to preface it by saying this has not been validated, I guess, but it sure sounds accurate. So I'm going to read it to you because for me, I read this and I went, wow, that makes so much sense, especially in light of everything that we've heard from Q. All right, this morning at 4:30 a.m., Canadian Prime Minister Justin Trudeau was served a criminal indictment by the U.S. for corporate and financial crimes. Media owners were instructed to brainwash everyone that Trudeau and his wife have the coronavirus and that they won't be leaving their house for a while. Tom Hanks was arrested 48 hours ago for pedophilia, and he is currently being kept in a hotel room in Australia, refusing to fly back to the USA. The next celebrity arrests will be Celine Dion, Madonna, Charles Barkley, and Kevin Spacey. All will claim coronavirus infections. Italy's airports have been completely shut down as over 80 Vatican and financial officials have been served the same criminal indictments for financial crime, pedophilia, child trafficking, and sex abuse. United Emirates have completed mass arrests of their own royal family and affiliates. Convicted, that's good stuff, that coffee. Convicted Hollywood rapist Harvey Weinstein agreed to a deal in exchange for his testimony against hundreds of top Hollywood celebrities and their involvement in the drug business, pedophilia, and child trafficking. Instead of a 55-year sentence, he only received a 23-year sentence. In exchange, he provided testimonies against some of the biggest and most powerful names, including Prince Andrew of the UK, former President Bill Clinton, former Vice President Joe Biden, Tom Hanks, Oprah, Ellen DeGeneres, Quentin Tarantino, Charlie Sheen, Bob Saget, Kevin Spacey, John Travolta, Steven Spielberg, Podesta, NXIVM and Pizzagate sex trafficking clubs, and hundreds more who are all directly involved with Jeffrey Epstein. Jeffrey Epstein was similarly allowed to make a deal and have his suicide in prison faked in exchange for his testimony. CEOs of some major world corporations have been indicted, arrested. Some have been forced to resign, all in the last 30 to 60 days, such as the CEO of NBA, Harley-Davidson, and Bill Gates Foundation, Intel, McDonald's, Caesar Awards, and Disney, the Vatican Chief of Police, etc. Approximately 700 to 800 more resignations are coming in the next 3 months. The lab-created coronavirus was a cover-up for the mass mandatory vaccination agenda. Sure makes sense to me. Now it has become the biggest covert U.S. intelligence operation that the world has ever seen. This mass 158,000 arrest operation will remove and capture the biggest evil and corrupted politicians, celebrities, and CEOs, including global elites and bankers such as George Soros, UN officials, and the founder of Greta Inc. President Trump will win the 2020 elections, and arrests of former U.S. presidents will occur in early 2021. All major arrests will be portrayed by the media as accidental or as conspiracy theories. All arrested individuals will be given Rommel death, meaning that they will have a choice between their death being portrayed to the public as a suicide or an accidental death in return for assurances that his or her reputation will remain intact, or alternatively, that they can choose to face a criminal trial that would result in public disgrace. Some top religious leaders will be arrested or forced to resign, and some will suddenly get sick. The Vatican will be the first, and the Pope will be removed in 2020. Production of human extracted, I'm not going to say this word, but this word right here. hopefully you can see it, will be revealed, and Hollywood and the Vatican will be exposed as being directly responsible for that. Coming up, there will be a 2-month complete shutdown of the world's most common operations, such as schools, the stock market, some banks, airports, shipping, travel, events, galas, expos, sport games, sport championship, music award ceremonies, NBA, NHL, baseball games, and ship cruises. Temporary. There will be food shortages and staged electricity power loss. Gas prices will go down. Food costs will go up. Insurance will go up. Gold and silver stocks will fall. And many corporations will either go bankrupt or take a significant financial loss, such as in the case of what's about to happen to Air Canada, Disney, and Coca-Cola. Welcome to the Great Awakening. What's about to happen this summer and fall will change the world's history. Now, again, I am not telling you to believe that. I don't know if I do, but it sure sounds like it could be so. I guess we're going to have to keep our eyes open and see. I guess we need to keep an eye on these people. Tom Hanks, Oprah, Ellen DeGeneres, Quentin Tarantino, Charlie Sheen, Bob Saget, Kevin Spacey. We're going to need to keep an eye on these. And if they're suddenly coming down with the coronavirus, then I think we can pretty much assure that this is correct. So there you go. I wanted to bring this to you, even though I don't have a clue whether it's true. But it sure sounds like a viable explanation. So anyway, now, I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to stop here and I'm going to continue because I've got lots more. I probably have more than one more video's worth of information, but I want to get this uploaded, and while this is uploading, I will continue to record. All right, guys, I appreciate you listening to me, and I really hope that you know my heart in all of this is not to scare anyone, but just to cause you to prepare. And I care about you guys, especially you guys that have been listeners for a long, long time. I feel like I've gotten to know you. I see your comments and so forth, and I care about what happens to you. And I mean that from the bottom of my heart. I do care. So I don't want anybody out there suffering or going hungry or whatever. And I'm just asking that you prepare, that you think about your plan for what you'll do if. So that's it for this video, but I am coming right back with another. So while this is uploading and you're probably watching this, I'll be recording another one. And I would like to end this with prayer because I know that there are so many people scared, and I happen to believe that prayer is, well, I know that prayer works. And I'll tell you, I've seen a lot of miracles in my life because I've been in the place in my life where I've needed miracles, and I mean bona fide miracles. I've seen them. So I know that God works. I know that God answers prayer. I'm not asking you to believe what I believe. I'm not asking you to, and I'm not even asking you to pray. If you want to shut the video off now, that is absolutely fine. I'm going to respect you and what you believe, and I would ask that you would do the same for me. But I am going to end in prayer here. And Heavenly Father, we just ask that you would protect the U.S., protect Canada, Lord. I ask that you would give wisdom to President Trump, that he would be handling this in the best way possible. I ask that you would give wisdom to his advisors, Lord God, those people that are around him and have his ear. Lord, I ask that you would, give them wisdom, Heavenly Father. And I ask that you would protect the listeners of this program, all of them, Heavenly Father, even if they're just happen to tune in for this video. This is the very first video they've watched. Lord, I ask that you would protect them, that you would watch over them, that you would put your hedge of protection around them. And Lord, that you would comfort them and give them wisdom on how to deal with this. And Lord, we trust you. We humble ourselves before you, and we pray and we ask that you would hear from heaven, that you would see our humbled hearts, and that you would heal our land, Lord. In Jesus' name I pray. Amen. All right, guys. I love you lots, and I will be back in the next video. Stay safe.